We listen to Drake.
Ready to get into it? You're in Leonard Cohen mindset?
I am in Leonard Cohen mode.
Right.
I am thinking about women, nothing but, and life.
Welcome back to the Paul and Will Show, otherwise known as our Old Man Media.
I'm Will.
I'm Paul.
Nice to have you back.
This week we're looking at Bird on the Wire, Leonard Cohen.
Is it Bird on
film.
the Wire or Bird on a Wire?
Bird on a Wire. I got that wrong there.
No, Leonard Cohen, Bird on a Wire.
Going strong straight out the gates here. But is it Tony Palmer?
Yeah, Tony Palmer directed it. So
he's got quite a virtuous career.
Yeah, quite the oeuvre, spanning many years. So our local independent cinema had a Tony Palmer week to celebrate his new memoirs coming out.
Yeah.
And they put on a load of his films. He has the last one they're doing is his Wagner film.
I was going to say, I was thinking, there's someone I've been talking to that I was like maybe going to take on a date to the cinema, and we were saying this weekend the only day I was free was today. And I was like, what's on at the independent cinema? Because I want to take someone cool, not just like Cinemax. And I was like 7 or 8 hours Wagner documentary. I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I could do that. I mean, it'd be a very testing first date.
Yeah, that's make or break there.
Yeah.
Do you know who Wagner is?
Yeah, he's
the guy that did the Flight of the Valkyries.
Yeah,
but then also was
German
like,
composer.
Yeah, did stuff for the Nazis and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's watch a 7-hour film about him. Apparently Richard Burton's last major role, which actually I probably would be interested in watching, to be fair, but...
It's a strange little independent cinema because it is just all old people.
I mean, there's very occasionally I go in there and there is someone 35-ish, but that's it. I never see anyone younger than 30 there. But it's great. It's really good.
All the kids were saving it for Wagner.
All of the 18-year-olds will be at the 7 years.
But Tony Palmer, he's done a few music biopics, including obviously this one, Bird on the Wire. What's he's done? Is it? I mean, obviously the Wagner one is technically a music, not a biopic. Sorry, like a documentary.
Well, yeah, it is a biopic. It's not a documentary. Yeah.
Well, the Wagner one's a biopic.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
It was about Wagner and his not descent, but like how he became a fascist. But yeah, I don't know what else he's done actually. I know he's done a few biopics, I think, and a few documentaries. But he gave a little. So there was a little like speech, not like an introduction at the beginning, and he said that he'd basically go and sign.
It's Frank Zappa. He's done some sort of film with. Yeah.
It's a film about
surrealist.
Richard Burton, Peter Sellers.
He's done some other composers, Igor Stravinsky.
What about the Beatles?
Yeah, All My Lovin'. Cream as well. Jimmy Hendrix, Rory Gallagher. I love Rory Gallagher. So yeah, it's, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like Bird on the Wire is his biggest film, right? I know of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably. I mean, that being said, it was a lost film for 40 years. Considered a lost film for 40 years.
I didn't know that part.
Well, basically, the story goes that it got made. Obviously, Tony Palmer followed Leonard Cohen around, and he edited it together. He did everything himself, basically, apart from some of the camera stuff. He edited it himself. And then he showed it to the BBC, and the BBC bought it straight away. And the producers made their money back like almost instantly. And then he showed it to Leonard Cohen, and Leonard Cohen said it was far too confrontational. He didn't like it very much.
Wow.
And so I think they took it and like started re-editing it. And then the BBC then saw that version and didn't like it and didn't want to pay for it.
Wow.
And so after that, it got buried in some Hollywood vault for 40 years. And then, yeah, some guy was looking through some old files and they found all of the tapes and sent it off to Tony Palmer. Because, I mean, technically, I think he owns them still because nobody bought it. And then, yeah, so 40 years later, the film finally comes out. But so which version we have, I don't actually know. I guess probably
the re-edit. Yeah.
The most
modern one.
I don't know. It does feel still quite confrontational. So I guess maybe he did undo some of Leonard's re-edits, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot happens, to be fair. It's it's a tour documentary. And I think like instantly as I was watching, I was instantly thinking of Don't Look Back by
for sure,
Pennebecker. I was
but
like,
I think
part of me was like, I wasn't sure what the deal was between Cohen and Tony Palmer, but I wonder if one of them was like, I don't know. In my head, I was like, Leonard said, "Oh yeah, let's do the Dylan thing." Because Dylan's one of his heroes.
My thinking probably would be that Tony Palmer is being a documentary filmmaker. Of that era, you owe something to Pennebecker. He was huge. I mean, his Monterey Pop stuff is really, really good. He was a huge proponent of cinema verite. And so my thinking would be that probably it was Tony Palmer's idea. But that's just conjecture. I don't know. But I think every like tour documentary after Don't Look Back owes something to Don't Look Back. You know what I mean? And there is like scenes in it like that feel like they are just parodies of scenes. I mean, there is
in the hotel room.
Yeah, in the hotel
backstage.
room where there's like all of the fans are making a bit of a fuss.
Yeah.
In the Dylan one, he's like
who threw the bottle.
He's confronting all of the fans, going, "Who did this? Who did this?"
Yeah.
And they pan around to Leonard Cohen. He's just slunk down in a corner. It's two very different people.
But Leonard Cohen's just got this really silent, mystical aura about him, and it's like he can control a room without doing anything. He's so subtle, and his power lies a lot in what he doesn't do or say. Like I've been listening to a lot of Cohen before I even found out that they were showing this film near us. It hit me at a good time to go watch it. It's it's set just before New Skin for the Old ceremony, which I think I have back there in the corner. Anyone's got a keen eye, it's behind my head.
Because I was going to say they performed Chelsea Hotel number 2.
Well, that's the thing, is they performed it, but it's a Chelsea Hotel number 1. Because I was watching it and I was like, I haven't heard this version of Chelsea Hotel. It kind of has an elongated, like the female singers are kind of dramatically going, like, making your sweet little sound, I can hear you. And, it's a very more like gospel-y almost. And it kind of just, I was like, is this just a live arrangement and they're jamming it out? And I realised that he rewrote it. And in a way, I like listening to that. It's really cool. It was very cool in the cinematic experience, but like as a standalone song, it does border on a bit like sort of for Leonard Cohen, especially a bit like pseudo dramatic, But I also thought what was good about this film is you get to see a lot of Cohen's humor, like as a person.
He was very funny.
Like you listen to his music only, and you just think, he's a bit of down, a bit of a downer, and then. Not all of his music, but like a lot of his the few albums he'd released before then, and then there's like a bit where he's like performing to the audience, and he's like, "It's Leonard Cohen here to sing his songs of doom and despair," and he's like strumming the guitar, and like gets like quite a lot of laughs from the audience because just playing up to it. But
self-parody was quite funny. It was very good, that bit.
My favourite Cohen album is Death of a Ladies' Man, which I believe was released after New Skin, or maybe 2 albums after New Skin for a New Ceremony. But it's funny because you get to see a bit of his famous womanizing on camera here.
I'd seen that clip before, but I didn't realise it was from this documentary because it's so funny.
Which one? The one where he's like, it's kind of hard to come onto a girl on camera.
Yeah, that's so funny because you're like kind of so invested in it. It's like, is he going to pull this off? Is he going to pull this off? And then he turns around and is like, God, this is awkward. And you're like, you forget for a minute that it's not a fictionalized film. And this is like, there is really just a guy with a camera pointing at him. Yeah. That's cinema verite. Like, you kind of forget that you're a camera and this isn't stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's another bit where like as a fan he's like kind of asking what he's up to later.
Oh yeah, and
then he just turns it down for some reason, and it's just like kind of, you don't expect him to do it, but it's like he's just like he's just like, no, I'm busy. No, I just like, and and there's also bits where like there was like a short collection of clips, and there's him and the blonde backing vocalist with the glasses, and he's like got his arms around her, like
I thought
like
they were dating,
and it's it kind of suggests that vibe, but then him flirting with other girls, and it's like, what is he doing? Like, is he kind of like got a bit of a free loving thing going on? Bit polyamory. But then it's like after that clip, and that happens pretty early on, you don't really see them interact that much more apart from the live performances. So it kind of adds to, and it's kind of this unspoken drama, and that you build in your head. And I love that about like filmmaking and documentaries, especially, where it doesn't go, oh well, Leonard Cohen was sick. It's not a narrator telling you. You're just kind of like picking up on things. You're like, oh, there's something going on there, and there's something.
Yeah.
You kind of make the story for yourself.
Yeah, it leaves it up for interpretation, but it does make you wonder how much of that is Tony Palmer putting that in, or maybe even Leonard Cohen if it's some of Leonard Cohen's edits. It is interesting.
I love I love the bit where he's like kind of like playing the intro to a song as well, and then it's like, what can you tell, how can you, and then everyone starts applauding, and he's like, why are you applauding, how can you tell what song this is? They all start like that. And is it in Berlin where he's obviously having some trouble, the Berlin show?
Oh god, the Berlin guys are awful.
He's like playing on the stage and the crowd aren't really, and he's like, I'm a tough guy, I'm tough, I can do this all night, and he's just like flamenco guitaring on a loop, just staring at the crowd, and I just thought it's very funny and charismatic, and he was like,
it's the behind the scenes bit of that one that's what really stuck with me. Those two guys that came up to them demanding their money back, and they're like, when they'd already offered them their money back because the PA system had like conked out on them or something.
Yeah.
And then they come and like harass them after the thing. It's like that could only happen in like Germany. They were just so like, it wasn't even really clear what they wanted.
Yeah.
Because they were getting their money back. It was just, they were just there to just harass them, and they were like accusing them of being like deceitful or something. Like,
well, here's where I think the documentary might have been trying to make a point slightly subtly, is you've got the two biggest shows in the documentary being Germany and Israel, and there's this kind of undertones of like anti-Semitism, especially the fact that these two guys are asking, they're getting really like antsy about money and accusing Cohen of being
okay, no, I hadn't picked up on that.
Intentionally trying to rip them off, and I didn't even pick up on it at the time, but it's something that as I've been like doing a bit of research for the pod, I was like I just thought about it, and I was like, that's quite interesting to think that the biggest issue was money, and it's obviously quite a stereotype, quite a no,
that's an interesting
scapegoat. It was like that kind of to show that disillusionment of like how much the German people were like, and then you've got the later gig in Israel where like the fans literally love him so much, and they're singing every word back to him, and they don't care that he's like wandered off stage for like half an hour during the set because he's whatever he's going through, they're just like completely enamored with him as a person. And it's worth I looked into the background of that kind of relationship with Israel and his Judaic faith, and it is a huge part of Leonard Cohen as a person. Like from a modern day lens, it can sort of actually I had like an Instagram post pop up. I follow this page called like Leonard Cohen Archives, and they reposted some interview about him going into the whole Israel Palestine thing, and I would like to talk about that later, but for now.
Always comes back to Israel.
I'll just start with his Judaism. Really, I think Cohen is in.
Can I confess something?
Yeah.
Before watching this documentary, I actually didn't know that Leonard Cohen was Jewish.
Yeah.
I listened to him. I listened to a few albums, but I've not looked into him that much as a person. Didn't really know that much. So. I guess it makes sense, but yeah.
I'd read his book, The Favourite Game, and that goes into a sort of semi-autobiographical, kind of like Henry Chinaski for Bukowski. He has like a pseudonym character who is him, and he talks about, his Jewish upbringing and, the Jewish...
The thing is, I've read a book of his poetry, The Book of Longing, and he talks about being a monk or something, but I always assumed he was Christian, but like he obviously spent a lot of time in some sort of religious sect or something, and he talks a lot about that in his poetry, but he never actually brought up specifically that he was Jewish. He would talk about God a lot. I assumed he was Christian.
Well, yeah, there's especially as he got older, I think he like acknowledges Judaism as part of his past and upbringing, but he spent some time as a Zen Buddhist monk. He spent
that's probably what
1994 to 98, I believe. Actually, wow, I do have it written down somewhere. Let me just find it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, between 1994 and 99, he was ordained as a Buddhist monk, and he just lived, like the simplest life before. Like I think after that, he came back out, rejoined society as a whole. But
obviously after he'd gotten famous. That's crazy to then do.
yeah, this was quite late into it. But
Yeah.
obviously he was already in the 70s. He was already like 30 odd. So, but Cohen in Hebrew means priest, and means a descendant of Aaron, who is the brother of Moses. So even his name has these implications. But the Jewish people, or the large majority of Jewish people, saw him as a prophet.
Really?
Through his music and his words and stuff, and how he has songs speaking of navigating the apocalypse, and it's like embracing the broken world. There's that famous quote where it's like there is a crack in everything. It's how the light gets in, and all these like really powerful works of art and poetry and stuff, and kind of like acknowledge the painful ego destroying cost of love, while also pointing towards it as the ultimate source of connection, which I don't know. I think like that's kind of maybe where he goes further than religion, because religion is just love thy neighbor. It doesn't say no, not all religions necessarily says like love is pain.
I think some religions do.
Well, I guess they got the story of Job Job.
Oh, yes,
in the Old Testament.
Well, he was like God tested him.
Yeah, like God killed all his family, and like there's like a deal between the devil and the God, and the God was like, the devil was like, I bet you can't put this guy through hell, and like he'll still believe in you. And then he does loads and loads and loads of horrible shit, and still the guy believes in him. And then at the end, he gets rewarded with a new family, like more kids. And like, I don't know, it's very stupid, but not that I should be saying on air that someone's religious.
In that book, it's always. I mean, I've not read it, but I've heard people like recount it to me. It's just insane.
And I found an 85 interview on Israeli TV with Cohen, which I found interesting. And on Israeli TV, he said like, my songs are always Jewish. They can't be anything else but Jewish. And he also said my heart was circumcised in the Jewish tradition, which is like I think with him it's just like it's hard to know. I think he plays up a bit to who he's talking to. Would he, on English TV, maybe say this as much, or American TV, maybe not, but because he's on Israeli TV and he's got fans in Israel. But also, I think there's like a right, by saying his heart was circumcised in Jewish tradition, it kind of, circumcision isn't exactly a very pretty or beautiful thing. It's like something you're kind of forced into, and it's like, his heart is circumcised. It doesn't sound like a pleasant experience, does it?
Being circumcised in general does not sound pleasant.
Yeah. But got the obviously got the performance where he plays in Israel. I think, is it for IDF soldiers?
I don't know. In Tel Aviv, you mean the first one? So it opens up with a performance in, I believe, Tel Aviv, and the last one was in Jerusalem. So the opening scene of the documentary is. The crowd. I'm not sure. It's not the crowd so much. It's the security. I thought it was the security, or I guess there must have been some IDF soldiers. I don't know. Which I mean makes sense. I mean, all Israeli civilians are technically IDF soldiers, or have been at some point, or are going to be. So because it's what's it? Automatic conscription. What's the word?
Military conscription. Yeah.
But they start getting incredibly physical with crowd members, like seemingly peaceful crowd. I mean, you don't actually see everything that happens, but there are seemingly peaceful crowd members who are being attacked by security adjacent personnel, and the security starts storming the stage, and they nearly attack Leonard Cohen, and they have to rush them off stage, and they're recounting in the back rooms that some of the security were beating on certain members of the crowd, and it's pretty full on. I mean, I could understand why Leonard Cohen thought it was like confrontational, because I mean it is, especially the way to open up the documentary, which most of the time, I mean, obviously with Cohen you associate him more with kind of love and peace and stuff, and then your opening scene is the exact opposite, which is quite. I mean, from his perspective, I mean, from him, he's very kind of almost too calm and serene at that moment, like he's like in the eye of the storm, and he's just completely calm. It's very odd from him, but but Jerusalem is just calm, and there's nothing. I mean, apart from Cohen's office, leaving the stage at one point. There's no.
It's like I'm pretty sure he does acid before that gig.
Yeah, it's heavily
suggested.
hinted, but we're not. You're not. It doesn't show you what they were doing, but yeah,
he like licks this bit of paper at one point, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna regret this," and it makes him like,
Yeah.
he's like, I think it's like some old, like, this is the way I interpret it, is he's talking about this old acid, and he's like, "Oh, either I'm, he's like, either in like half an hour I'm gonna be like, either way I'm gonna be totally fucked or something, even if it doesn't kick in or if it does kick in or something." But it's interesting that whether or not he was under the influence of the drug, but even the he had a whole episode he has performing in Israel and Jerusalem. It's like maybe he's overwhelmed by the fact that these guys love him so much as a prophet. Maybe he's got some guilt because of he knows his stuff about the conflict, and I don't think he wants to. I don't know. He has always played, even late into his career. He played in Israel. And yeah, it's a complicated issue for him because he opposes war, and he would definitely oppose what the IDF and the Israeli army do today, and probably always did. But I did find like an interesting thing online in 2009. A committee, so the British Committee for the Universities of Palestine, wrote a letter to him, and they said. They said they actually mentioned it Buddhism, and they said if Buddhism advocates right action, you should live by those words by not playing in Israel, and it's like they said, what does this say for the Palestinians if you just emerged from three weeks of unfettered bombing and no place to hide, and your hospital's overwhelmed, sewage running in the street, and and then Leonard Cohen's playing for your tormentors, and they made it's a very, very long letter you can find online. It's not very long, but it's probably too long to read out a whole thing. But yeah, they're basically just asking for action from him, and he actually responded by, instead of cancelling the show completely, he got in touch with charity. And it was one that benefited Palestinian and Israeli organizations. So it was like it was for like parents of like people that had lost children and family members and stuff. But to be fair, he hadn't actually played in Israel since 1975 until that. It was like 2009 that this was happening. So there is something to say there, maybe about he did boycott for a time. The organisation was Perez Center for Peace Children's Medical Program, or Combatants for Peace, an organisation which attempts to bring together IDF veterans and Palestinian terrorists who have renounced their ways, as well as this Palestinian Happy Child Center, a development centre that works with special needs children in Ramallah. And he said he accepted the principles of a fund, but only if its purpose was made crystal clear. This mission statement is to provide financial support for organisation individuals working to achieve reconciliation, tolerance and peace between Israelis and Palestinians, and thereby advance the recognition of full expression of human rights in this region. So he didn't want to pick a side overtly, and I don't think he wanted to like even get involved with the politics of it, but he did just want to benefit all parties. And there was a doctor that he got in touch with who was like a famous person he was a Palestinian who had lost a child to the Israelis, and he started his own charity and to benefit both Palestinian and IDF, and there's like lots of like stories of him like reconciling with IDF soldiers, and with that story comes like a bit powerful kind of theme of like forgiveness and seeing over the war, and putting the differences aside. And I think that's the sort of thing that Leonard Cohen believed in. But in this day and age, it definitely does leave a bit of a bad taste in your mouth that he wasn't outright dismissive of.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it feels incredibly hypocritical, like quite rightly, as those university students pointed out. He was a Buddhist, and he very often, even in the documentary, he preaches about peace and so on, and performing for IDF soldiers or future IDF soldiers in a land that was taken from, militarily taken from the native people. I mean, to a degree, I mean, I guess you could always say that about the US, but that had happened within the last 30 years. Israel as a state was Israel's independence was declared in 1948 with the Nakba, where everybody, all the Palestinians that were there, were forcibly moved, and there were bombs placed in Palestinian homes, so they couldn't return to their homes, and you know, I don't know. I think the only excuse that I could give Leonard Cohen is ignorance, and I think that's a heavy. Israel wants people to be ignorant of those facts, and I can't remember what it's like. Israeli propaganda has a specific name. I can't remember the name of it, but they have, put millions and millions of the, what's is it
like something washing, right?
Yeah,
like I want to say like white, like how you'd say whitewashing to make something seem like more pure than it is.
But yeah, they want to cover, well, not necessarily cover up, but they present alternative facts about, this is their promised land. They didn't commit this act of terrorism, and they didn't do this, and it all paints a very rosy picture for everybody in Israel and outside of Israel, when actually the truth is far grimmer, and it's far, they have committed acts of, we go by the Geneva Convention, which would have been in effect from 1948 when Israel was. It was in effect in the 50s, because it was during the Korean War that it came into effect. But there was, there are statutes, and Israel have signed that, and to say that they won't commit acts against humanity, and then they have in the past 5 years they have, and they had done it in when did this come out? 1973.
Yeah, this is when the tour was set.
And they had done that. They had, committed things like the Nakba. And, I just... For Leonard Cohen, someone who... I mean, I wasn't super aware that he was Jewish or he'd performed in Israel. But for someone that in the documentary preaches so much of peace and understanding, to then just to have so little understanding of... the place that his people call a homeland. I just don't.
Yeah, well, I also, I'm glad I screenshot this, because it was a story, so it disappeared. But I thought I had saved it as like a post or something. But there's a Jerusalem Post article about how Leonard didn't want to play in Israel, and he said didn't want to play in it at first, but he was allowed his manager at the time, whatever, to explore the possibility of this charity concert. Apparently he didn't want to play because of the politics, and was troubled by making money in the middle of a conflict. And yeah, I think the charity, this has got actually a bit more, it's got conflicting stories with what I've researched on the computer here, but apparently it's the Parents Circle was the charity which he wanted to do the event for. It was a Jewish person whose son was killed by Hamas at a bus stop who set it up. Who had an epiphany that at first he wanted revenge, but he realised that hatred can only stop in one heart at a time. He declared that it was going to stop it with his, so he set up the organisation of Israeli and Palestinian parents who've lost their children. So I guess with that all in place, you can see why he might have been more inclined and had a clearer conscience to play. Not that I'm trying to defend him, but I just try to look into, and but in the past it was a little bit less readily available, the information on the conflict.
Yeah, I mean, it shows like some sort of a growth on his part, but I just feel like that course of action that he's taken to go down the path that's pampering to both sides so that he can do what he wants to do, which is perform in Israel. I just like that feels worse to me than just performing in Israel. Like you're acknowledging the fact that there are Palestinian people actively being killed so that you can perform, and and trying to not pay them off, but pay for some medical bills, and then I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, apparently he discouraged moving forward, he discouraged going back to Israel and the West Bank. He feared that they would get hurt. He feared that his manager as well had no real understanding of the conflict as well. But he's got this quote here that says, music doesn't really make a difference, but it does somehow make things better. But so it's kind of like he wasn't ready to.
I disagree with that. Just like if you look at the South African apartheid, and before the apartheid government fell, there was a huge surge of artists doing boycotts so that no artist would play in South Africa, and that helped sway public opinion against South Africa, the South African apartheid government massively, and so I disagree with that point.
Yeah, it was perhaps a bit of a cowardly stance to take.
But I don't know, all of this, like, I don't want it to take away from the fact that it just genuinely is a really well-made documentary, and it is worth seeing.
And like all documentaries, it doesn't... sorry, not like all documentaries, but as a good documentary, it doesn't have any bias in it, I would say, either way. It lets you make your own opinions up, which is why you can walk out and you can have a bad taste in your mouth, and it can seem confrontational, and, it's... Something I did notice in the film, and there is a section in the film where I think you could probably see it in bad taste, but I didn't take it as that. But there is a section where they use newsreel footage of lots of wars. It's over a Leonard song, isn't it? I can't remember which song it is now. But there is clearly, I mean, I don't know if it's from Palestine, but there is a section in there where it's clearly an Arab man retrieving his dead son out of a clearly bombed out. That was pretty rough, actually. I forgot about that.
It was pretty intense. I mean, I think it was a lot of stuff from Vietnam mostly, because there's a very famous piece of news footage and it was towards the end of the Vietnam War, where one of the American GIs just in front of the camera just shoots a helpless Vietnamese citizen just in front of the camera. And you see the blood spurting out of the head, and it's horrific. And it came out near the end of the Vietnam War, and that was one of the big pieces of news footage that changed public opinion about the war. I mean, it would have been changing for a while, but it was a big... there are lots of news footage, and it's likening, all of the wars going on at the moment, because the Vietnam War still would have been going on at the time.
Well, maybe it's...
Sorry for a slight technical disruption. I was talking about the newsreel footage. There's obviously the American GI shooting a Vietnamese citizen, and then there is, I don't know exactly where it is, but there is, it seems to be an Arab father taking his child, a dead child out of a bombed out house. And you do wonder there whether, having already seen that the Leonard Cohen was performing in Israel, maybe Palmer is trying to shine some light on the irony of the fact that Leonard Cohen was performing in Israel, and the way in which he does it is perhaps, I don't know, I find a bit I don't know, it doesn't quite feel. It's a bit full on as well for the type of documentary it is. I'm not really sure about the way in which he does it, but I
it's Under the Story of Isaac. I think, that's the song that plays during that sequence. It's Vietnam era, and then it doesn't actually disclose what era the other war stuff was from, but I interpret it to be from the Israeli-Palestine conflict.
And I don't think it's Palmer necessarily taking any side on the conflict, but I read it as Palmer pointing out the irony of that, But also the other point I wanted to make was the style of documentary. I think is interesting, because if you've ever listened to Werner Herzog talk about documentary filmmaking, he says that you have to be you have to prod the hornet's nest, is what he has. You interview people, and you prod them, and you make them. You try and understand their way of thinking. The type of documentary of filmmaking that Tony Palmer goes for is more cinema verite, which is where you don't do that. You sit in the corner and you film what's going on. I think maybe possibly there could have been more interesting conversations with Leonard if Tony Palmer had maybe taken that course of action as to actually interview him. Because you see lots of interviews, and he Leonard Cohen comes across very erudite and very succinct. I mean, he says some very interesting things throughout. But you maybe think that like if there was interviews with Tony Palmer and Leonard Cohen, it could have been an interesting way to get more of Cohen's insight as to what was happening on tour and more broadly.
Yeah, he remains quite withdrawn and mysterious. He does calm conflicts. Like there's bits when in the beginning when all that stuff's kicking off, and he does say like on the mic, like, oh come on, we're not here to do that. We're here to love one another. Keep the war out, or or keep that, or something like if you stoop down to their level, you've already lost, kind of thing, and like kind of like love thy neighbor platitudes almost of like, But yeah, he does have a sort of removed stance throughout a lot of the movie. I think it's difficult to just want him to like actually get up and have all this conflict and confrontation. I think there's also that he's just trying to sort of get through the tour and do his music, and
yeah, he remains very aloof throughout the documentary.
I think he's trying to avoid falling into that sort of that prophet kind of martyr, or I don't know, whatever kind of.
I mean, it's an incredibly heavy title to have put on you, isn't it? I mean, Dylan obviously felt the same way in the 60s, and you can understand why someone would want to evade that title. But I don't know. There's also, I think he speaks at one point of how there is politics in writing songs about being lonely, which I thought was very interesting. And I think that's very true. I mean, politics is in all things, whether you think it is or not. It always is. And but then to go and perform in Israel, I don't know. I'm just harping on the same point now, but yeah.
But you got Leonard Cohen was a man of conflict, and a man of lightness and darkness and contradictions. The fact he was even born into Judaism and then spent 5 years ordained as a Zen Buddhist priest, even that shows the contradictions that he held within him. And he wasn't, he did have like he was hard to follow, and I don't think he saw the world in black and white. He saw it in its a lot of complex beauty, and even like me talking about how I was surprised about his humor, and it's like he performs this quite dark and gloomy music, and yet he can still laugh and have a little bit of a joke on stage, and about the fact that he's so dark and gloomy, and the fact he can be so quite charming and I don't know, also can be a bit perverse, and you know what I mean. He's got all these different like elements, and you could say like of some other artists, like we talk about Dylan, how he's got all these different masks, whereas I feel like Leonard Cohen is like he's got two different, like he's like two sides of the same coin. It's like he kind of really acknowledges that duality that's in everything and all of us. It's a fascinating way to kind of like live your life, I think, and very real, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. I mean, he does. I think everybody I think contradiction is like at the heart of human nature. You know what I mean? I don't think.
That's why everyone can be a hypocrite. I don't think any single human being has lived their life without being hypocritical or saying something that opposed to something they said earlier. Now everyone's capable of change, or even sometimes it can just be like the weather, and it could just be like one day you feel like this and one other day you feel like that, and it's kind of human nature is just embracing that. Weathering the changes in stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He does. He has a poem from his 1984 book. Is it Book of Mercy? Book of Mercy. It's quite a long poem, so I will save reading the whole thing. But it starts off: Israel, and you who call yourself Israel, the church that calls itself Israel, and the revolt that calls itself Israel, and every nation chosen to be a nation. None of these lands is yours. All of you are thieves of holiness. All of you at war with mercy. Who will say it? Will America say we have stolen it? Or France step down? Will Russia confess? Or Poland say we have sinned? All bloated on their scraps of destiny, all swaggering in the immunity of superstition. It goes on to sort of convey a lot more of the contradictions of Israel, but even that shows he is sort of meditating and considering all of this, like, you know, brutality that is happening from, you know, his own holy land. And you know, it's quite a hard thing to be brought up in believing a certain religion and then finding out that all of its flaws and you know, quite dark underbelly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also a poem in the film as well, isn't there? He reads something about how it was about our leaders are killers, so are your leaders, but our leaders are better. You know, we think are more honest killers, so we reject your killers. So it goes on like that, I think. But like, whilst I think it is a good poem, mostly, it just, to me, it sounds very, what's the word? Middle of the road, and it's not taking a side. It's not, and it just feels like a very basic understanding of world conflicts. And whilst as to a certain degree it's probably true, I just think I think it shows maybe not an unwillingness to learn about conflicts, but certainly that it feels like a justification for Israel, partly. And I wasn't super fussed on it. I don't know, all of this saying I don't always agree with Dylan's politics, I don't always agree with Cohen's politics, but I can still very much say that they are incredible songwriters and poets and singers and such. Yeah, I think that's just about what I had to say on Cohen's politics.
It's probably a good place to leave it. In terms of, you know, like, maybe great art doesn't have to necessarily answer or provide a political viewpoint, but it's good to make you question it yourself, and to be able to read a poem and, you know, even think, well, this is hypocritical, or this doesn't answer all the questions, and then, but what question doesn't it not answer, and then how do you answer that for yourself? And yeah, I mean, for even that like train of thought, I do think that I disagree with what Cohen said about art not being important enough. I think art can really make a difference in people's thinking, you know. But we are potentially living in an age where it's hard to voice your own opinions if you are a certain level of fame. There's all that worry. I feel like a lot of big artists are told to stay out of conflicts in case if they polarize their audience. Yeah. You know, which is why, you know, I think, you know, it's great to see like someone like Javier Bardem at the Oscars using that platform. Yeah, and it's great to any sort of star that is able to make a stand. But there's funny that you do find there is an artist, I can't remember who it was, but I saw something about how they hadn't played in Israel. They'd been very anti-Zionist for a long time and supportive of Palestine. But it was like finding out about it, I was like, it's been kept quite hush, you know, in a way. And it's like, is it, I don't know, it's like, it's still probably better than, you know, still playing in Israel and, you know, doing the Radiohead thing, but it's also, yeah, I don't know, it's like, should you take a big stand against things like this? Should we all?
Yeah, I mean, it can be hard
if
you're that level of famous. The only thing I'd say about Cohen is obviously he's hugely influential in Israel, and not performing there actively because of the war would have made a huge point. You know, but you can't expect someone to do that. That's not, you know. But you know, you also look at people like, I mean, this is a recent example, but Jenna Ortega. I think it was Jenna Ortega got massive, almost kind of blacklisted because of her anti-Israel views. And you know, I mean, it's happened to Dua Lipa a lot less actually, because she's very anti-Zionist, and she confronted Gal Gadot at in the toilet at the it's some ceremony like the BAFTAs or something. And like her and a group of friends just confronted Gal Gadot. Now Gal Gadot won't go back to that award ceremony. But yeah, I don't know.
If they're willing to boycott,
frankly, get Gal Gadot out every single award ceremony. God, what a terrible actress.
Well, thank you for listening to our podcast on Bird on a Wire.
This has been Israel Corner.
Well, I did sort of prepare for the episode thinking it would go that way, and I do think it's probably an important thing to note when you're watching it through the lens of 2026. So yeah, I think somehow we ended up on this conversation when we were doing this Mario Galaxy movie. And I think maybe that was out of pocket, but here I feel like it's got quite contextual. Probably necessary to navigate that, and to avoid talking about it would be almost more of a statement.
I think maybe we've done all of our talking about the Israeli-Palestine.
Yeah, this is the episode. It's going to be clipped if anyone wants to find out more. I mean, I haven't really voiced my personal opinion, so, but I don't know.
Who cares about our opinions?
Yeah. What are we going to do? Boycott? Oh, well, I mean, we could do.
Have we got any Israeli listeners?
I'll have a look. Yeah, no, we've got none from Israel, thank fuck.
We have some in
United Arab Emirates.
So Ethiopia.
So let's that's a fun little segment of this episode. Let's go down from the top.
We have less listeners.
United States, we've got 44% viewers. It's just crazy. That means that none of our friends listen to our podcast, basically, apart from maybe one who lives there. 31% United Kingdom, 5% Vietnam.
No, that's all my bots. I've got lots of Vietnamese bots.
4% unknown, so people with like VPNs maybe that just don't want to be caught listening to the Old Man Media podcast.
Don't want that showing up on their history.
Switzerland 3%, which I have like a couple Swiss friends, so I'm hoping Jules, if you're out there, thank you. Sweden 1%.
Sweden.
South Korea 1%. That's cool.
Nice.
It's cool as fuck. Singapore. I guess we did do we've done some Korean cinema episodes.
Yeah, maybe that's.
Spain 1%. That's probably Callum. Shout out. Oh, I'll cut out your last name.
Hi, Callum.
Italy 1%. Albania 1%.
Wow. Australia, Bangladesh, Canada, Ethiopia.
Australia is probably Will. Oh, I keep saying our last names.
You keep saying last names.
Well, it's less than 1% of our listeners. So, well, if you listen to this, Will, cheers. Argentina, Russia, Poland, India, Germany, Hungary, Iraq, Kenya, Lebanon, Pakistan, and South Africa. Pick yourselves up, guys. We are a very multicultural podcast, and we will continue to be.
We will, absolutely.
Yeah.
We should talk about more foreign cinema, to be fair.
Yeah, I do. It's like one of my favourite areas of cinema at the moment. I'd like to do some French cinema, to be fair.
I saw an interesting article about French film. Have you seen this thing recently about the French guy who's is major shareholder in Canal Plus?
Oh, okay.
And he's been heavily policing what people say, and there's been an open letter signed people like Mark Ruffalo, Léa Seydoux, and some major French filmmakers against him, and now they're basically blacklisted because they spoke out against this guy.
Ooh. Man, we need to take white men away from power. I think every fucking organisation should be led by I don't know, a flock of
it shouldn't be led by
seagulls.
Billionaires.
We should paint seagulls in different, and then they kind of where we have separate food baskets with different decisions on them, and then whichever seagull color, there's some sort of system here that by the assortment of colours with each food basket, we can make decisions to run our world.
Some say Nigel Farage is a bunch of seagulls in a large trench coat.
It's a Nigel Mirage.
I feel like I'm in a fever dream. It's the hottest day of the year in the UK, by the way, at the moment. And
hottest day of the year so far. We're only in May, baby. I'm loving it, man. Yeah, I was telling Will, I was up to skate park earlier, skateboarding, and there was some Sunday league football going on. They were giving it their all. They were like, go out there and play some real football. Man, they were like going for it, and I was just like, this is what you want to see. They're probably all so hungover. It's bank holiday weekend as well.
Oh God, yeah. You've never played Sunday league football, have you?
I'm gonna now after what I've seen today. I think I could be. I think I've got the mentality for it. Let's fucking go, guys. I want to see some passion out there, huh?
But that's exactly what it's like every week, and then you've got all the parents shouting at you.
Yeah, there was a lot of sideline people.
Yeah.
Mate, yeah, it came alive, honestly, it was electric. I was just there in the background trying to do tray flips.
Right, well, I guess that's Old Man Media over and out.
See you next week for, perhaps we'll go into this Canal French thing. Actually, we've got a Bob Dylan episode lined up, so that'll be the next one.
Dylan.
Freewheeling Bob Dylan. If you've enjoyed Leonard Cohen and you haven't tuned out by now, that'll be right up your street. So
yeah, let's talk about more Jewish songwriters.
Mashallah, that's not me. That's the opposite of Jewish.
The opposite. No, I don't know. Mazel tov. That's
Mazel tov.
I don't know much.
Shalom. Might cut this, might not. We'll see. See you next week.
Bye.